I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm not getting audio either. I'm about to chat it.
All right, I will check that.
And I just sent Chris's personal Facebook page in the chat to you, Brian.
Thank you. You should have audio now, correct?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for your March edition of the Mighty Monthly Muse? If you are, let me see you raise your hands up in the air. That's right. Here we go. Abraham Lincoln, David and Goliath, Salvador Dali. I'm a longtime fan of folk music, and if you are too, please share this video via your internet connection. I think your wife dropped this. My grandmother painted that. I am your host. My name is Chris Chandler. Yes, we have a shop where all the props are built, and we are flying into the Jim Alberti Theater. We are listening to Pete Weiss and the Weistronauts. And today is March the 5th. Here's our orchestra. If you would like to support this broadcast, you can do so at paypal.com/paypalme/baldchandler. We have special guests. This will be a reunion of many of my former music directors, Danny Dolinger, John Elliott, David Rovitz, and Sean Shanahan. Here we go. Welcome to the Jim Alberti Theater.
Hi, and welcome. Welcome. How are we? I can't see you just yet, but I will be able to see you soon. Hello, and welcome to the Jim Alberti Theater here in Highland Park, New Jersey. Thank you so much for coming to this monthly gathering of the muse that amuses. The poignant promenade of weirdos, free thinkers, and loquacious lunatics that is and always will be fans of this show. I am your host, Chris Chandler, and joining me tonight is a walk to the future on the wings of the past, showing the dorsal fin of the present. Today is March the 5th. A little poor lighting there for a lighting designer, don't you think? For our first, please, my first guest is going to be, he's my former music director. We've done a bunch of tours together and a couple of seasons at both the Oregon Country Fair and the Kerrville Folk Festival. We were booked at last year's Kerrville Folk Festival, but things didn't quite work out all right. you know, COVID. But they are on, just as a side note, Kerrville is has been on track to do a socially distanced version of it. But another side note, news bulletin, I am getting my second vaccine shot in just 10 days. And Kimberly is too. Everybody say hi to Kimberly. But I digress.
Hi,
Texas.
Kimberly.
Kimberly,
We got
Kimberly.
voices in there. Everybody say hi to Kimberly.
Hi, Kimberly, how you doing?
But I digress. As Texas is prone to do, Texas has prematurely acclimated. So the jury is out and sequestered as to whether that's going to happen. But as we ponder that debacle, please welcome my first guest. He is not just a rising star. He is a rising constellation. Please welcome from San Francisco, California. Joining me on this number is John Elliott.
Hey.
I looked beyond the curvature of the earth, past the myriad of planets and stars, expanding and contracting, just beyond the dust on my windshield.
And I called out to God himself. I said, God, I matter. And God responded. He said, why, yes, you are.
These are the days of the open hand. They will not be the last. Look around now. These are the days of the beggars and the choosers. This is the year of the hungry man, whose place is in the past, hand in hand with ignorance and legitimate excuses.
And at that point, I realized that I really am one with God. Only once you become one with God, do you then pray to yourself? God, I hope not. Because I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of rebel that on those rare moments when I find myself in charge of something, I feel the need to question my own authority. I find myself looking in the mirror saying, don't let me tell me what to do. And that's when it occurred to me that that's what the Bible meant. That we were all created in God's image, that he was looking in the mirror and therefore did it all backwards. Which would explain a lot. He made each and every one of us different, except for Anthony.
The rich declare themselves poor, and most of us are not sure if we have too much, but we'll take our chances, cause God stopped keeping score. I guess somewhere along the way, he must have let us all out to play. Turned his back, and all God's children crept out the back door. It's hard to love.
It's all one big merry-go-round. Our lives, the seasons, they go round. We wave to our parents, and they wave back. And then they are gone.
Say it's much too late. Well, maybe we should all be praying for time.
The band has been replaced by a calliope that makes Entrance of the Gladiators sound like Pop Goes the Weasel, and no one seems to mind. And when it's all over, we are right back where we started.
This is the year of the empty hand. Oh, you hold on to what you can. And charity is a coat you wear twice a year. This is the year of the guilty man. Your television takes a stand, and you'll find that what was over there is over here.
And sometimes we dream. Sometimes we dream big, which is why I rolled over this morning and mashed the snooze button, saying, I must keep the dream alive. But in the dream, there was traffic, lots of traffic. And on the other side of the road, there was this chicken taunting me, saying, who are you to question my motives? And I started to cross the road, wondering if I was as indecisive as I used to be. And I found myself taunting at the chicken, saying, just because I changed my mind doesn't mean I'm not still right. And the chicken taunted back, saying, to answer your question, it was the rooster that came first.
So you scream from behind your door, say what's mine is mine and not yours. I may have too much, but I'll take my chances, cause God stopped keeping score. And you cling to the things they sold you. Did you cover your eyes when they told you that he can't come back? 'cause he has no children to come back for. It's hard to love.
And the reason that I did not cross the road
There's so much to hate.
was because I wanted to go down it.
Hanging on to hope.
Going down the road, feeling bad.
When there is no hope to speak of.
With a rubber chicken hanging from my rear view. Because I don't know about you, but I would rather hang with people who are looking for answers rather than people who have found them. And whether or not I have found any answers, to tell you the truth, I can't remember. Because I've been doing this for 30 years now, and at this point, having a bad memory is the only thing that gives me a clear conscience. And sometimes my conscience bothers me, but my conscience is just another voice in my head, like God. And just because I know the voices in my head aren't real, doesn't mean I shouldn't listen to them. I mean, I listen to the news and I'm pretty sure that's not real. Sure, God created the stars, but let me ask you, who created the constellations? Who sat beneath the prehistoric equivalent of a Zoom concert and told stories as someone painted pictures in the sky and someone saw those pictures and painted it on a cave and someone saw that picture on the cave and told another story, and every story paints 1,000 pictures. You do the math. Count the stars. And when you count the stars, the universe becomes totally abstract. And God becomes this giant Jackson Pollock. And he's up there randomly throwing paint, randomly spilling paint, drawing tight lines that point to an arrow, that points to a truth. And that truth can be boiled down to a simple haiku. And that haiku are obscure, often hard to understand. Refrigerator.
It's hard to love.
But there is a truth.
There's so much to hate.
And that truth is
Hanging on to hope.
the power of good
There is no hope to speak of.
is greater than the power of evil. I'm gonna say it again. The power of good is greater than the power of evil, just not by very much.
And the wounded skies above say it's much, much too late. Well, maybe we should all be praying for time.
But the future can be predicted. Because, my friends, what's ahead of us depends solely upon what is inside us.
Hey, how y'all doing? Give it up for John Elliott. Thank you, John. I encourage you to check out his work, and I believe that his contacts have been put into the chat links. You should check out a lot of John's work. He is a truly great artist, and putting those contacts in the chat room is a labor of love here at the 830 Club. So let's give it up for the 830 Club itself. Let me see some jazz hands in my little monitor. All right. It takes a lot of people. I want to thank Tim Mason and Shannon Flattery for having me here at the 830 Club. And they're doing lots of things. I hope you're getting a chance to go into some of the galleries. And if you're having trouble doing that, you can just raise your hand to an usher. And let's give a shout out to the ushers. We have Red Cell as an usher. We have Jenna Kirkpatrick, Vern Crawford, Timmer B, Karen Billard. And I'd also like to thank the guy who's running tech, Brian Dozer.
Yay, team.
Go, go, go!
Thank you. Our next guest is also on the West Coast, and if there's some things have changed a little bit. I don't know. I no longer see. There we go. Thank you. See, the tech is just working. It's awesome. Yay, team. Our next guest is also on the West Coast. John's from San Francisco. Our next guest is from Portland. We put out one record together. It was about 25 years ago, but it was a good one. It was called Convenience Store Troubadours. I met him playing on the streets of Boston in the 80s, and we have crisscrossed the United States lots of times. The United States, Canada, and even Britain, sometimes together, but more often doing what, as Einstein pointed out, that on this round planet, I'm going to fix that. On this round planet, every straight line will intersect, and sometimes quite often. And I have enjoyed collaborating with our next guest over the years a lot, not just on music things, but also on such social justice campaigns. He is a lifelong activist dedicated to using his arsenal of songs to afflict the comfortable and comfort the afflicted. The person that taught us both that creed is our mutual dear friend, Ann Feeney, who happens to be Kimberly's aunt. And of all the many great things that Ann Feeney gave to me, Kimberly is the greatest. David and I collaborated on this piece, and you will be the first audience to hear it. I hope you like it. I am only going to do one number as a tribute to Ann, our poor lost comrade, long lost comrade, because on April the 3rd, yes, April the 3rd, we will hold a massive virtual celebration on her life and legacy. And I hope you will join us for that. It has not been announced where, on what virtual platform this will be, but there is a Facebook event page that will give you information as it's announced. And I believe that that is also being put in the chats by our wonderful ushers and hosts. And if you are streaming Facebook, would you please share this in the chat as well, so it can be there. Please give a zoomacious round of applause. A zoomacious round of applause for my good friend and these timing lights. For my good friend who Amy Goodman calls the Howard Zinn of folk music, and Howard Zinn called him Democracy Now! The musical. Would you please welcome David Rovitz. It was Joe Hill that said, "Don't mourn, organize."
I dreamed I saw Anthony. It was on a picket line somewhere in the world where workers did combine, cheering on the strikers with a guitar in her hand from Oregon to Ireland.
Her roots remain deep in the earth from which she came and to where she will lie. Her grandfather, an Irish immigrant, William Patrick Feeney, used his violin as a tool to organize mine workers, and I have no doubt that her grandchildren will do the same. Hers was a lifelong commitment to somehow, some way, and by any means necessary, stand upon the long arc of the moral universe, use it as a trampoline to assure that it continues to bend towards justice.
Dreamed I saw Aunt Feeney amid the foggy glow of the flashbang grenades outside the WTO, singing songs against the war at a military fort or making arguments in court. Crisscrossing the country in jalopies made of passion, from picket lines in the rain to tear gas in the streets. If it happened in the last 69 years, she was part of it.
Fear a movement that sings, she insisted, and take the music to where it needs to be heard, she would say, and act upon.
Dreamed I saw Aunt Fee in the Texas hills, singing songs around a torch at Kerrville, crossing every bridge she could with the wheels of a car, with some CDs in the trunk, along with a guitar.
At Kerrville, I recall her singing to the working staff there, of which she was a part. The Internationale and a small handful of cowpokes listened to her with their Stetsons tilted like the Victrola doll, until a Hispanic delivery man stepped up beside her and sang, "Levantos prisioneras de hambre." A German tourist stepped up and offered a verse in German. A Swede, an Israeli, and even, yes, a camera-toting tourist offered a verse in Japanese. She medleyed the song into Solidarity Forever, and before she was done, she had the entire ranch singing with a Texas accent, "The Union makes us strong."
I dreamed she never fell. She was in Baja with her grandkids doing swell, sharing free advice on how to find the cheapest flight so you can be throwing Swedish snowballs beneath the northern lights.
It will take all of us to do as Pete Seeger sang with her. Carry it on. May we all carry it on. My friends, it is a heavy lift, but together we are strong, and it will indeed take all of us.
Dreamed I saw Aunt Feeney get her first dose of vaccine instead of reading of the people who died of COVID-19 in the New York Times. Nice things that they said, but I so much wish we could have. And here still instead.
My friends, a giant has fallen, and we must all now stand upon each other's shoulders, megaphone in hand, as we announce to the world that from this vantage point, we can indeed see the arc of the moral universe as it does indeed bend towards justice. Ann Feeney, presente.
Woo. Thank you, Chris. Woo.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I miss Ann. It's been a lot. We thought 2020 was terrible. To me, it was just like 2020 was terrible. 2021 is just like hold my beer. You know, it's just been one after another. And yes, Ann was a huge. And thank you to David Rovics. I hope to see you in person soon. And Ann was a huge influence on me. And I want to talk about another fallen hero of mine who died at the age of 101 just this week. As many of you know, I was a high school dropout and I did not read a book until I was 19. And at the school for dropouts, the theater teacher gave me a copy of A Coney Island of the Mind. I fell in love with it. I memorized it. It became my act. Yes, my first act was me playing the bongos. Electric blue bongos, wearing a beret and a striped t-shirt and saying things like skiddly wow and cool daddy-o in between reading passages from A Coney Island of the Mind. That led me to reading Ginsberg and to William Carlos Williams, which eventually led me right here. I had a chance to read with Allen Ginsberg in the 80s, and in 2019, I got to read at Lawrence Ferlinghetti's 100th birthday celebration at Specs, which is right across the street from City Lights bookstore, which he started. So come to me to San Francisco, to the City Lights books, where I will read for you several poems of my earliest influence. Lawrence Ferlinghetti, presente.
City Lights Bookstore, Lawrence Ferlinghetti, founder of City Lights, publisher, book salesman extraordinaire, shortly after his passing at the age of 101. I was lucky enough to read at his 100th birthday celebration in San Francisco at a bar right across the street from City Lights called Specs. This is one of his most favorite poems by many people. I am waiting. I am waiting for my case to come up. I am waiting for a rebirth of wonder. And I am waiting for someone to really discover America and wail. And I am waiting for the discovery of a new symbolic Western frontier. And I am waiting for the American eagle to really spread its wings and straighten up and fly right. And I am waiting for the age of anxiety to drop dead. And I am waiting for the war to be fought, which will make the world safe for anarchy. And I am waiting for the final withering away of all governments. And I am perpetually awaiting a rebirth of wonder. I am waiting for the second coming. And I am waiting for a religious revival to sweep through the state of Arizona. And I am awaiting for the grapes of wrath to be stored. And I am waiting for them to prove that God is really an American. And I am waiting for Billy Graham and Elvis Presley to exchange roles seriously. And I am waiting to see God on television, piped onto a church altars, if only they could find the right channel to tune in on. And I am waiting for the Last Supper to be served with a strange new appetizer. And I am perpetually awaiting a rebirth of wonder. I am waiting for my number to be called. I am waiting for the living end. And I am waiting for Dad to come home, his pockets full of irradiated silver dollars. And I am waiting for the atomic test to end. And I am waiting happily for things to get much worse before they improve. And I am waiting for the Salvation Army to take over. And I am waiting for the human crowd to wander off a cliff somewhere, clutching its atomic umbrella. And I am waiting for Ike to act. And I am waiting for the meek to be blessed and inherit the earth without taxes. And I am waiting for forests and animals to reclaim the earth as theirs. And I am waiting for a way to be devised to kill all nationalisms without killing anybody. And I am waiting for linnets and planets to fall like rain. And I am waiting for lovers and weepers to lie down together in a new rebirth of wonder. And I am waiting for the great divide to be crossed. And I am anxiously awaiting the secret of eternal life to be discovered by an obscure general practitioner and save me forever from certain death. And I am waiting for the storms of life to be over. And I am waiting to set sail for happiness. And I am awaiting a reconstructed Mayflower to reach America with its picture story and TV rights sold in advance to the natives. And I am awaiting for the lost music to sound again in the lost continent in a new rebirth of wonder. And I am waiting for the day that maketh all things clear. And I am awaiting Old Man River to just stop rolling along past the country club. And I am waiting for the deepest South to just stop reconstructing itself in its own image. And I am awaiting a sweet, desegregated chariot to swing low and carry me back to Old Virginia. And I am awaiting Old Virginia to discover just why darkies are born. And I am waiting for God to look out from Lookout Mountain and see the ode to the Confederate dead as a real farce. And I am awaiting retribution for what America did to Tom Sawyer. And I am perpetually awaiting a rebirth of wonder. I am waiting for the war to be fought to make the world safe for anarchy. I am waiting for Tom Swift to grow up, and I am awaiting the American boy to take off Beauty's clothes and get on top of her. And I am waiting for Alice in Wonderland to retransmit to me her total dream of innocence. And I am awaiting Child Roland to come over from the final darkest tower. And I am awaiting for Aphrodite to grow live arms at a final disarmament conference in a new rebirth of wonder. And I am awaiting to get some intimations of immortality by recollecting my early childhood. And I am awaiting the green mornings to come again. Youth's dumb green fields come back again. And I am awaiting for some strains of some unpremeditated art to shake my typewriter. And I am awaiting to write the great indelible poem. And I am awaiting for the long, careless rapture. And I am perpetually awaiting for the fleeing lovers on the Grecian urn to catch up with each other at last and embrace. And I am awaiting, perpetually and forever waiting for a renaissance of wonder. I am waiting. A lot of people know Lawrence Ferlinghetti from the movie The Last Waltz. And it's been kind of a trend at festivals, remember back when we had festivals, to revive some classic movie or album and perform it in its entirety on stage. And I got the chance to play the part of Lawrence Ferlinghetti in a restaging of The Last Waltz. It was for a late show at the Oregon Country Fair, and I opened the show. It was a few years back. It was like this. Imagine me playing the part of Lawrence Ferlinghetti in a reenactment. Let us pray. Our Father, whose art's in heaven, hallowed be thy name, unless things change. Thy wisdom come and gone, thy will be undone on earth as it isn't heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, at least 3 times a day, and forgive us our trespassers on love's territory. For thine is the wisdom and the power and the glory, and lead us not into temptation too often on weekdays. But deliver us from evil, whose presence remains unexplained in the kingdom of power and glory. Oh, man. Do a couple of quick short ones from a Coney Island of the Mind. This one's a lot of people's favorite, including Paul Benoit, my music director. See, it was like this. When we waltzed into this place, a couple of far out cats is doing an Aztec two-step, and I says, Dad, let's cut. Then this dame comes up behind me and says, you and me could really exist. Wow, I says. Only the next day, she has bad teeth and really hates poetry.
Yeah.
From Pictures of the Gone World, number 8. It was a face which darkness could kill in an instant. A face as easily hurt by laughter or light. We think differently at night, she told me once, lying back languidly. And she would quote Cocteau. I feel like there's an angel in me, she'd say, whom I am constantly shocking. Then she would smile, look away, light a cigarette for me, sigh and rise, stretch over her sweet anatomy, and let fall a stocking. And finally, the first poem I ever memorized, number 5. It was sometime during eternity that these guys show up. And one of them who's real late's this kind of carpenter dude from this square place called Galilee. And he starts wailing and claiming that he's hip and that he knows who made heaven and earth. And the cat that really laid all this on us was his dad. And moreover, he adds, it's all written down on these scroll parchment these henchmen leave laying around the Dead Sea somewhere. And you won't even find them for a couple of 100 years or so, or 1947 of them to be exact. But even then, nobody will believe him, or me for that matter. You're hot, they tell him. So they cool him. Yeah, they stretch him on a tree to cool. And everybody after that been making models of that tree and always crowing his name and asking him to come down to their condo with him as if he is the king cat. Only him don't come down from that tree. Him just hang there looking all petered out. And also, according to a roundup of the late world news from the usual unreliable sources, he's real dead. Thank you for listening to my tribute to Lawrence Ferlinghetti.
Thank you, Chris.
Oh, city lights.
Oh yeah. I tell you what, I came from a fairly religious background. My father was a preacher, and when I read Christ climbed down from his bare tree this year and ran to where there were no rootless Christmas trees adorned with candy canes and breakable stars, it changed my life. It really did. Speaking of literary influences, there are a few that have been more profound in my life than Phil Rockstro. We met at Hedgens Tavern when I was 15, and I was working for a band called the Georgia Satellites. And he told me that he was a writer, and I thought, a writer, I thought. I fancied myself a poet. I had been published in the high school poetry magazine and before I dropped out. So I ran out to my car and I got my little spiral notebook of poems and I brought them to him. And he started reading them and he read the poem and he ripped each one out and he wadded it up and he dropped it onto the sodden beer floor of Hedgens Tavern. And he said, "Go home and write about what you know." Now, in high school, I was that kid with a terrible fake British accent who would go like, "As 4 dogs bite into the flesh, the wound is exposed." And he saw that I had some potential and just wanted to shake me out of that night. I'm very appreciative of that. And I went home that night and I wrote a song called Watergate Generation, which was a staple in my repertoire for a long time. And Phil and I eventually started working together. And I had thought I was going to have him on the show tonight, but we couldn't get that worked out. So instead, I called up my old friend and former music director, Danny Dolinger, to accompany me on this one of the oldest pieces that I still do. Phil and I wrote it at the Trackside Tavern in Atlanta. And if you know anything about folk music in Atlanta, you would know, number one, Eddie's Attic. Well, this was before Eddie's Attic. This was back when Eddie was the bartender at the Trackside Tavern. It was also the talent buyer. And Danny, I got to warn you, is one of the best songwriters that I personally know. So I was especially honored when he agreed to accompany me with this cover song because his songs are truly timeless and spectacular. We had him on the Solstice Show, and I hope we can have him back at another Mighty Monthly Muse. But for now, would you please welcome from Stoughton, Virginia, Danny Dolinger and Christina Wolf.
Stanton.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Well, I'm going down this road feeling bad. I am going down this road feeling bad. Going down this road feeling bad, Lord, Lord, and I ain't gonna be treated this way.
Well, I seen Jack Kerouac in the back parking lot of a Stop and Go. He was pouring wild turkey in a Slurpee, sitting on the hood of a Yugo. Well, we went on the road on a changeless scene and headlights rolled past my eyes like the rolling flash of a Xerox machine. Have we all gone blind from polystyrene signs? Endless replications of strip mall situations, fast food attitudes, and telemarketing platitudes.
The United States
of Generica.
Going where the climate suits my clothes. I am going where the climate suits my clothes. Going where those chilly winds don't blow, Lord, Lord, and I ain't gonna be treated this way.
I seen Walt Whitman and Woody Guthrie on the front seat of a '74 Camaro. They were going down the road feeling bad from bad burgers, ordering food from a drive-through window. Well, we ran our caravan into the parking lot of a Piggly Wiggly, where we all stared in awe at a postage stamp of Elvis. Well, we all believed that he was the king, though I think those of us listening to this Zoom concert right now could agree that poetry has got no time for monarchy. I heard a street corner poet say one time that rock and roll was once a threat, but these days rock and roll is a time life anthology. And Walt Whitman went wild on the pharmaceutical aisle. It was number 21. And he did depart with a shopping cart full of multicolored condoms. You remember what Walt Whitman said? Walt Whitman said, I sing the body electric, but these days I do it safely. Take one, Daddy.
What have they done to my road? What have they done to my America? The interstate made the United States
Of Generica.
Takes a $5 shoe to fit my feet.
Where'd you get them shoes?
Takes a $5 shoe to fit my feet. $2 shoes hurt my feet. Lord, Lord, and I ain't gonna be treated this way. Well, I'm going
William Blake hitchhiking on old Route 66. I said, is it better out there in the sticks where there's not a sign of a Kmart? Did Ma and Pa sell the family store? Are they now employed at the Walmart? But he said, don't despair. There is poetry everywhere. We clicked up the electric windows and flipped on the air, told stories about hitchhiking, quoting Baudelaire, who said, if you're gonna get drunk, stay drunk. On wine, on virtue, on poetry. You know, William Blake once said, I saw in a single grain of sand an epiphany. But you know, my friends, we could all see eternity in a single grain of NutraSweets. But I am going down the road feeling bad. I am going down the road feeling bad. You know, like you taught me, Woody Guthrie, I ain't gonna be treated this away. Cause I seen Jack Kerouac in the back parking lot of a Stop and Go.
Love it.
Hey. Thank you so much. Thank you, Danny. So are y'all up for a story? Say,
Yeah.
tell us a story,
Tell us
Chandler.
a story.
Say, tell us a story, Chandler.
Tell us a story, Chandler.
Tell us a story.
Well, I'm gonna close it out this evening with this story. And I hope you will hang around for the after party before we before we close. And this is my current music partner. We got rained out at Kerrville 2 years ago after trying to play that stage for so many years. Hell, I'd even been banned from the festival trying to play that festival. They finally invited me and we got rained out. And they said, oh, don't worry, we'll invite you back next year. And I thought, great, next year. And well, COVID. And now this year is up in the air. But Sean and I are working on a record together. We were working on a record together when the pandemic hit called Working on a Building. And this song will be on it. So please welcome from Eugene, Oregon, John Shanahan. Strange similarities between what was happening in California just a few years ago and what is happening here right now. You might remember, my friends, that Paradise lost, but not in the way that you were thinking.
Daddy, won't you take me down to Butte County? That's the old Feather River. Paradise
I'm sorry, my son, you're too late in asking. The fires have all burned away. It was not long ago at all, as we would walk through the streets of San Francisco, Oakland, Berkeley. Wishing the Lord I was stoned. Was there something on Sunday makes a body feel alone? You know what pisses me off? Is that they do trash pickups on Monday, and almost every month has a Monday holiday. Veterans Day, no trash pickup? What's with that? Do you think they'll ever fix those potholes? Hey, did you hear that Paradise Adventist Academy had advanced to the Northern California semifinals? Paradise Adventist? Really? Do they even have a football team? Volleyball. Girls volleyball. Now, before the fire, these were the buzzes on the front porch, morning coffee house chit-chat, the stories on the local AM radio station, the front pages of the local newspaper, the Paradise Post, which is now in ashes. And although in ashes, the Paradise Post, through the help of her sister paper, the Chico Enterprise Record, continues to publish as they had, only now there is no town to deliver to, so they delivered the papers to the evacuation centers. And there's nothing short of dying, half as lonesome as it sounds. Just another sleep Sunday morning. Well, we all know what happened over a 2-day period. What started as a small brush fire well west of the town swelled into a bonfire that turned paradise into Hades in a matter of hours. Potholes and volleyball were no longer on anyone's mind. Grab your family and escape, escape, escape. But not all of the pre-fire dramas of Paradise's Refuse to Die community was turned into floating ash that settled onto your car windshield in Berkeley. Because, my friends, there are 12 players on the Paradise Adventist Academy girls varsity volleyball squad. Go Cougars! They and their families made it out alive, but barely. 8 of them and their families lost everything, and they were spread out, staying in shelters or with relatives from Shasta to Stockton. How could there be a volleyball game? But this is the semifinals, and no sport in that school's long history ever made it that far. Their opponent, the Forest Lake Lady Falcons, assumed that the team would have to forfeit, and the Falcons began preparing for their next opponent. But my friends, the Cougars refused to be defeated. Yet the Cougars had no equipment, no uniforms, no place to practice, no place to play, no homes. But these girls, now that's a different story. And I thank God on that Thanksgiving Day that they didn't see things like you and me. My friends, never underestimate the power of young women. I saw Daddy with his laughing little girl that's swinging, and I stopped beside Sunday school listening to the song they Then I headed back to home, somewhere far away, on some bells ringing. And it echoed through the canyons like the disappearing dreams of yesterday. These girls took to social media, and they let it be known that they needed the game to go on. And in solidarity, the Lady Falcons agreed to host. The Lady Cougars, their lives in total chaos, arranged on their own for transportation from points unknown to Auburn, California, home of the Forest Lake Christian School. And those 12 girls met in a parking lot for the first time since the fire. One of them had managed to get 12 white t-shirts from one of the shelters, and another got a Sharpie, and together they scrawled Cougars on the fronts of those t-shirts. And together they linked arms, united, defiant, and together they marched into the opposing team's gym, where they were met with something that few visiting teams receive when they walk into an opposing team's home. They were met with a standing ovation. And they were met with much more, because within 24 hours of the devastating fire, the Lake Park Falcons had collected donations of $1,600, and laid out on the visiting bench were new knee pads, socks, and most impressively, new uniforms. Each matched with the player's number and name on the back, matched perfectly with what they would have worn had the fire not happened. And the Paradise Lady Cougars went on to win that game against the Forest Lake Falcons. They won the game, but not the match. But in truth, they won more than any volleyball squad could, including being the champions of my heart. And it would be poetic to say that the Lady Cougars went on to win the state championship. In a way, they did. But instead, what actually happened, I'm sorry for the pun, but Paradise lost. They had to. Because, my friends, this is not Hollywood. This is Paradise.
Wow.
Bravo!
Go, go, go!
Thank you so much. I'm glad you liked that. Thank you for sticking around and listening to my little tales of woe. If you like this, please tell your friends. It's the only way that we can grow this audience. And if you'd like to support this theater or this broadcast, I put my digits in there in a highly sophisticated way. I do this every month. The first Friday of every month, I do a poem. And the first Friday of the month, I do the full set with special guests. And every Friday, I do a poem of the week live from my personal Facebook page. I will love to see you at the after party. I appreciate you guys gathering around, and
That's all, folks.
folks.